Welcome in to a very exciting new episode of a whole new ball game. You know who we are by now, I'd hope, if you've listened. But if you don't, I'm Vinnie Pasquantino. That is Alex Fuse. And we're here to bring you a brand new episode of our podcast. And I personally could not be more excited about this one. Karl Nonemaker on the show today. And I'm just pumped for it, Alex. How do you feel?
I can't wait to everyone to hear this conversation and to end off the week as you tweeted out last week, Karl friggin' Nonemaker. It's a great show to end off an incredible week. You know, we started off with Bryce Wyndham, the leadoff hitter, and to finish really with a great power hitter.
Which is just simply not true. He is not a power hitter at all.
Yeah.
He's the perfect five-hole if you want your five-hole guy to not strike out at all and maybe hit one or two doubles a season and the rest singles. So that is what he provides that consistency to end the week. This will probably be the only week that we drop 5 episodes. We just felt that we had enough content to get it out there. We're going to scale back what we're putting out there just, so we're not overloading everybody. So this is probably going to be our only five guest week, but it was a very exciting week. I mean, it was a blast, interacting with people on social media, seeing how they felt about it. But, this was just a good week. We're excited to get into next week. We've got some great interviews coming, and we are officially a week away from Christmas. And how much more exciting does it get?
This is my favorite time of year. It's the holiday season. The spirit of Christmas is in the air. And Vinny started off today with over 2 feet of snow. We have not officially measured, but I tweeted out a picture of my car. My car looked like my background. You couldn't see it at all, really. And it took me about an hour just to get into my car. So that's how my day started. I always say I like snow up until January 2nd. And boy, did we get snow or what?
Yeah, I mean, we had some ice. So I woke up to a text from my father saying, look out when you take the dog out. There's black ice all over they live in a condo complex, so not a driveway, but the parking lot, I guess, would be the best way to say it. But yeah, it was slippery out there. Bear the dog slipped once going down the stairs.
Oh no.
That was tough to see, but he kept his head held high, and he was able to finish out that walk on a high note. Everything's good with him. He's all good. So
how many times did you fall?
How many times did I fall? None, because I'm very careful. Quick story. There was a time when I was in high school. I rode the bus my freshman year, and it was 25 minutes, 30 minutes to school. So I had to get up early, make sure I was at the bus stop on time. One time it was super icy, and I did not see a patch of ice right in front of the bus as I was crossing the bus loop to get on it. Slipped, fell right on my back, and the bus driver made me sign a form basically saying I was okay so I wouldn't sue anybody since I was okay. And I wasn't planning on suing anybody, but they just have to protect themselves because you never know. You never know what's going to happen. But I did not sue, and, I couldn't because I signed that agreement saying I wouldn't, but I ended up being okay. But that was just super embarrassing. All my friends were giving it to me on the bus because I'm the idiot that did not see the ice and just fell right on my back.
Please tell me you have video of that.
I don't have video. I really don't have video. But speaking of videos, Alex, someday here soon, we have got a huge video of 8th grade me that's going to drop. And I could not be more fired up about it. That's just going to be a big time video. You and I have not determined when that video is going to come out. But to preview just a little bit, when I was in 8th grade, I was the school president, and I found my speech that won me the election. And talk about the electric factory, Alex.
Well,
talk about it.
I mean, I can't even put it into words, Vinny. Like, you sent it to me a few nights ago, and I was about to go to sleep, and it fired me up. I
didn't know that when I was in 8th grade, I spoke with a little country slang in.
Yeah.
I had no idea I spoke like that until I saw that video. So, you learn something new every day, even if it's about yourself from the past. And I was wearing a fighting necklace around my neck. So
that was sign of the times, though. That was sign of the times.
Yeah, that's how you knew my balance was good. I mean, if you wore a fighting necklace, you weren't falling over. I mean, the things helped with your balance. So, I mean, talk about a marketing scheme, Alex. I mean, that is just unbelievable that people were sold on the fact that bracelets and necklaces were going to hold your balance. Like, I never understood that, but I was always in on the new fads.
Never wore the necklace, always wore the bracelet though. Always wore the bracelet.
Yeah,
And,
you have to. Well, just new fads happen all the time. That was one of them. And I'm always on board for getting on the new trends. So, I was in for that. But okay, you guys have heard us talk enough. Welcome to the Thunderdome, everybody. Meet Karl Nonemaker. And oh man, what a guest we have today. Karl Nonemaker, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. I'm looking forward to spending some time with you.
Man, this is awesome. I've been wanting, the first person I think that came to my head was you to get on this thing, and I'm pumped that we're able to have you so early. I mean, I don't have a problem with saying this. You're our biggest time guest that we've had so far. So, I mean, really, you're just going to jump the show to new proportions that it's never reached before. So, Alex has had different big time guests on before. You're my first absolute dynamite guest. So this is huge for me personally to get you on here.
Well, that's a good standard right there. You know that if you have me as your first guest, you'll be able to keep up in the expectations and the ladder as you go down the road. So
yeah, that's right.
That's a good start.
That's right. So Karl is an assistant coach at Auburn University, and I feel weird calling you Karl. I know him as Nani. He was my hitting coach for a year, he was my hitting coach at Old Dominion University. He recruited me. So we go way back, 6-7 years to when we first met. So it's cool that we still have this relationship that we can keep talking now. So you're down in Auburn. Just tell us a little bit about that, what you got going on right now, everything that's happening.
Well, the first thing I would say is, we had Vinnie in a camp after his freshman year of high school. And now it's crazy because more kids are making decisions and committing after their freshman year of high school. I think Vinnie decided he was going to come to Old Dominion during his sophomore year, about when the baseball season started. But if anybody's been around Vinnie, he's a pretty big human. But I guess I met him when he was about 6 foot, 160 pounds. And we weren't sure if he was going to be a pitcher or a hitter. I mean, truly, he was a good pitcher, an 82 mile an hour left-hander his freshman year of high school. And you can tell he was going to be tall, and he was a good hitter. And so it's just interesting. Vinnie, I think, so you're probably like 70 pounds heavier than you were the day that we met 7 or 8 years ago.
Probably at least. Yeah, I could have given a few innings out of the pen, given that 82 was sink. The problem with me, the reason I never became a pitcher, is that 82 really plateaued right there. That's about as high as it got. So from freshman year to now, that's about all I had. But yeah, that's when we go back to, I met you at that camp, and it's just, we've both come a long way since then. Or really not really for you, because you started at Auburn. So you went to Vanderbilt. You were basically one of the best players in the country while you were at Vanderbilt. As a freshman, you hit what, 412, 418, something like that. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about your sort of recruiting window as a high schooler. And then you go to Vandy and you dominate. What was that like?
In 1997, it was a lot different. Most kids made their decision like right around their senior year where they were going to go, which there's nothing wrong with that. College still started when you were 18, and so it was a lot of fun taking official visits, which not as many kids get to do these days, and seeing different places and things like that. I know I took visits to North Carolina and Cal and Vanderbilt, and was able to take some junior day visits and to different schools that we could drive to back from New Jersey, where I was from. But for me, I was just really excited to get somewhere, where I could play baseball all year long, and we could get outside and play against, the best players that we could play against. I always thought that was important, right? You never wanted to have anybody say, well, could you have done it here or there? It's like you're experiencing now in the minor leagues. Once you're there, you've got a chance to produce, you've got a chance to do it, and that's all anybody could ask for. So I got to, fortunately, I've got to be in the SEC now for I think this is my 11th year, after playing 4, and this will be my 7th year of coaching in 2 different stops at Auburn. So just feel really fortunate to be able to have done that. And, obviously baseball is a big deal down here. And some of these teams are kind of like, the major league teams in their areas. So it's really exciting to be in this environment, and, just very thankful to be able to go to a baseball field every day for a job.
What has changed most in the game of baseball as a whole versus not just from the coaching side?
Since when I was coming out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think a real interesting topic on that note. Well, first off, obviously the game has become, it's almost two different courses. The professional game, I grew up a Yankees fan, and those Yankee teams of the late 90s and early 2000s, could hit and run, and they had some guys that could steal 15 or 20 bases. And that was obviously when Derek Jeter was young, and, they had, guys like Bernie Williams, Paul O'Neill, guys that they could hit the ball out of the park, but they could all do things, play a different game. I think you're seeing the professional game be more about trying to miss bats and strike guys out. And you're seeing hitters swinging a little bit more, I don't want to say all or nothing, but, the trying to impact the ball is definitely at the forefront of guys' minds. And there's more strikeouts than ever, but there's also a lot of home runs and things like that. So I think you're seeing the game adjust on the pros, from the pro side, especially on the mound, right? Every out's so important. From the college standpoint, it's actually going in the other direction. I actually really like the direction the college game's going. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, the bats were hot. My freshman year in college in 1999, the bats went from a drop 5 to a drop 3. And the alloy, or the type of metal, was more responsive, and the ball would go further. So if you look at some teams that won national championships in the late 90s and early 2000s, you're going to see a couple hundred home runs. I don't know what the number is. I would think it would be above 130 or above 150. Nowadays, the ball has actually the bat was actually drawn back, and the ball is in a really good place. So the college game, you're seeing guys be able to throw in the zone, throw fastballs. You're seeing more prospects come to college. Back in the late 90s and early 2000s, there was more breaking balls, and I think getting thrown, guys trying to miss bats. So this game has become a little bit more action, not quite as many home runs as it used to be, and it feels like the pro game has gone in the other direction a little bit. So it's very interesting.
On your resume, you went to Vanderbilt. You got drafted by the Phillies. After your playing career, you worked for Louisville Slugger for a few years. Then you went to Auburn as a grad assistant or as a volunteer, right?
Yeah, I went to Auburn in 2004 for 3 years, and then I went to work for Louisville Slugger and coached high school baseball back in New Jersey, where I'm from, for 2 years then. Yep.
And then you went to Monmouth to coach, and then you went to Old Dominion to coach, and now you're back at Auburn. So through, four stops at colleges, 3 separate colleges, how has your recruiting style and what you look for and how it matches the game, what do you look for, or what did you look for, and what do you look for now in recruits that maybe is a little bit different? What's the same? How has the recruiting really changed over those years?
Yeah, it's gotten earlier, right? And so the ultimate thing is wherever you're at, you're trying to get the best players that you can get for that fit, maybe your level, that fit your program. You're always trying to get guys that you think could be at a level higher than the one that they're at, that see value in your place. I think you just learn a lot of lessons. You have to be good on the mound, right? If you were to say, hey, what's the chances for a major league team to, in any game that you would possibly talk about, who's going to win tomorrow between these two teams? What's the next question you'd ask? Well, who's pitching? Pitching and being good close to home plate. There's not a lot of championship teams that don't have good, solid, reliable catching. That's kind of a heartbeat of a team, and more just their mentality and things like that can receive the ball. And then, how good are you close to home plate? After that, there's not a lot of good teams without a good shortstop and things like that. So I think it's just, how can we be as good as possible close to home plate, on the mound, behind the plate, and on the left side of the infield. And then when you get into, guys like you, I would say your wants, like guys that could really impact a lineup, corner outfielders, corner infielders, it's got to be, I just think, controlling the strike zone. Power's great. We'd love to have guys hit 20 home runs a year. The reality is that not many guys do. And at this level, guys have good stuff. You got to make them get you out in the zone. So guys that have bat to ball, guys that can make pitchers get them out in the zone, that can take a ball, that can get on base. There's some crazy numbers. We've done some studies on our teams, and the team that just gets more base runners in the last 3 seasons of our games wins almost 90% of the time. And that's not, home runs, doubles, and we love them, but that's just, walks, hits, hit by pitches, and getting on base. We're trying to build a team that's going to throw strikes, make the routine play, and then be able to control the strike zone on offense to be able to win that base running game.
Karl, the Royals, I think they are probably one of the best major league teams at figuring out the player's makeup. How much do you rely on a player makeup if you were to look at a pie chart when you're recruiting players to wherever college you're working at right now, Auburn, let's use that as a case. How much does makeup fill out that pie chart that you in your recruiting process?
Sure. That's a lot. I would say it's like talent and makeup are the 2 things you're looking at, right? And you can break talent down into probably talking about skill. Talent's probably a little bit more God-given, and skill might be something that might be man-made, right? Your ability to field a routine ground ball or to your hand-eye coordination hitting. But, if you break even that up, you're looking for guys that have talent, also have a good level of skill, knowing that they can make their body do what they want it to do and be consistent. And then, it's not just the thing that you say, because most guys we get have a very similar amount of God-given ability, and it's just what they do with that. And I think the biggest thing from a makeup standpoint is just how much do they love it. I think, I can remember asking Vinnie a question, and Vinnie's was just a great college player from day one. And I remember his high school, during the high school year, I think it was his junior year, they finished fall ball. And I said, "Are you excited now that you have a little time to hang out, just, regroup before the next year comes?" And he said, "Well, not really. Baseball is just kind of what I do. And I just love to be at the baseball field and play baseball games." And so to answer your question, Alex, the makeup is not just their character, but it's also how much do they just love to play, because it's going to take that love.
Well, that was nice for you to say about me. I don't mind being blown up. So thanks. Any more nice things you have to say about me, just keep them coming. I'm all in for that.
Oh, be careful, because as soon as you say like a great question, don't do that to Vinnie. Yeah, don't throw him a great question yet.
So you're a hitting guy. At Old Dominion, you were the hitting coach / recruiting coordinator, and now at Auburn, you're more the recruiting coordinator / hitting coach. So how has that been different, going from being the main hitting coach to now being the main recruiting coordinator at an SEC school?
Yeah, we have a head coach who's a pitching guy. So we have, 2 assistant coaches that are position player coaches. So we kind of broke it up into Coach, Gabe Gross coaches third base and does the hitting, and he does the outfielders. And, I do the infielders, and then, just obviously help with the position players. But it's a little bit different. There's probably I like when things are changing and adjusting, getting a chance to do different things.
Yeah.
I'll probably get to do a lot of the recruiting stuff, probably more in depth than I ever have been able to do. And so that's been great. I love being a hitting coach when I was, and love being around position players. But I think it's also good, I think any baseball person wants to be a baseball guy, not, just a pitching guy or not just a hitting guy. So I've enjoyed the opportunity to get to, work with infielders and work more on the defensive side of the ball, and have really enjoyed trying to recruit the best players in the country to come to a great place like Auburn.
Do you have any aspirations to be a manager one day, to be a head coach of a program?
Yeah, I think your first thing is you want to have a really good job, and I feel like I have a really good job. And feel so fortunate every day. And yeah, I mean, I think when you look, as people get older, most of the older guys that are in the game or in the college game, a lot of them are head coaches. So you hope that the teams that you're around are good enough that you could potentially get opportunities down the road. But that would be probably down the road.
Well, and I think that you're kind of rounding out your skills too, being a hitting coach, being a recruiting coordinator. So that probably helps when it comes to the head coaching, is to have a bunch of tools in your tool shed essentially.
And working just with awesome people, and like Guy Finney is at Old Dominion, and just how much he taught all of us just about how to play, how about the game, right? This is the way the game's supposed to be played, and you probably benefit from that, just knowing different things from that experience. And these guys here, I mean, our pitching coach is Tim Hudson. He just went on the Hall of Fame ballot. Our hitting coach Gabe Gross, was a first-round pick out of here and played 7 or 8 years in the major leagues and played in a World Series. Coach Thompson, his track record, and and I just think about some of those different places. The first guy that hired me here, Tommy Slater, is in the major leagues coaching hitting with the Mets right now. There's just been some really good baseball guys. So as much as you have to move some in this thing, if you really love it, every time you get to work with another impressive person, is just a chance to learn.
Right.
And I've enjoyed just learning from these great people wherever I've been. And then, you hear yourself saying things and you almost have to copyright it, because most of us that have learned from good people, we're just, we're buying into the things that we've been taught.
Right. Right. Well, I'm thinking about, like, just you saying that, my hitting philosophy is essentially 5 different hitting philosophies that I've been taught from different people that I've morphed into my own now. Yep. So it's like, it's not really my own. It's just kind of bits and pieces of what I've taken from other people that I like. And now it's kind of morphed into my own individual philosophy about it. So,
yeah. And you've created an identity. And I know that we talk about that a lot here of, the best performers, you can write a really good scouting report on them. Like, this is, like, take Tim Hudson, our pitcher. This is a sinker guy with a split finger, it's going to get you down in the zone. The ball's going to have a lot of action. Like, the best players, they're easy to say what they are. They're easy to describe. They have a calling card, something that makes them individual, and then understanding who you are. So that's what the best guys do, is they learn what works for them. They try to figure out what truths really resonate with them, and they make it their own, because that's the only way you can really hit that stride of being the best you can be, is by really knowing who you are, embracing it, and living it.
Now, throughout this, you always keep saying, for the love of the game, and it's such a cliche that everyone uses, but I love it because it's so true. Where do you think your love of the game comes from?
Baseball can just take hold of you at a really young age, and for most people it did. I mean, I think people can say, their relatives or this or that. Obviously my dad was always there to play catch, take me down the field, throw me pitches and things like that. But he also hit tennis balls with me, hit golf balls, took me skiing, played hockey with me, so was just exposed to everything like a lot of kids are. So I just think, I've always just had, baseball's always had that hook on me. And the similar reasons for most people is they either love to hit or they love to pitch. And most people fall in love with baseball because they love to hit. And then that's kind of the hook that gets them to see the rest of the game and to fall in love with the rest of the game, which we find out there's so much more to the game than hitting when you get deeper into it.
So, to me, you're known as a player's coach, and what I mean by that is you're not scared to joke with the players. You're okay with the players joking with you. You're always in the weight room making sure guys are getting their work done while you get your work done, which we all know is some kettlebell swings. You walk around with the kettlebell a little bit, and you get on out of there in about 10 minutes, and that's your full day of work. So how did you kind of develop that coaching style to be more of a player's coach?
No, the only good thing about Alex, this is for you too. The only good thing about not being a player, about being a coach or an announcer or anything like that, the only benefit, because playing so much better, is that you can walk out of the weight room whenever you want, and it's probably not going to affect your production. So,
This is true. This is true.
you know, the hour and a half workouts aren't required. You can do them if you want, if you're coaching, but yeah, I've been known to be in there for 20 minutes and get out of there. So I just think anybody that says they know exactly who they are when they're in their 20s or something like that is probably not 100% trying to figure out who we are. One thing you know about players, and you guys know this just being in a locker room, is the guys know who's authentic and who's not. You know, with your teammates, you get to be around different people from different backgrounds, and man, everybody can get along and you can really appreciate the ones that are just true to themselves and who they are. I just think for me, I love being at the baseball field. I love the relationships. And, you know, I want, starting at coaching at a place, like Monmouth or something, where a lot of guys were just going there because they just were going there to play baseball. And you're the reason why they came there. You want them to have a great experience. And, you want it to be fun. And then, the other thing is, obviously, we really want to win. We want to compete. But I think you can have a little bit more fun and have it be a little bit more relaxed when your team is acting right. It's just there's times as a coach when that you got to get guys in line, or you got to try to encourage guys that their actions could improve to be better. But really, I think the teams, when you feel like the guys there are giving it everything they have, and you're getting their best every day, it should be fun. And that's how I like it to be. I certainly hope I get to coach for a long time. And when it's all done, I wouldn't want to lose out on probably the most important part of it all, which is haven't had the relationships, because I think you'd be missing a big thing if it was all about everything else and not about the people.
Right.
How would you list out or explain to someone what the perfect teammate is to you?
Yeah. Well, as a coach, who the perfect teammate in the locker room is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's I think it starts with somebody, I think it's three things that we talk about here. It's like somebody that wants to be the best baseball player they can be. Somebody that is taking care of their business, in the classroom, and just so it doesn't seep out onto the field. And then, I think the third thing would be just somebody that's a great dude, that cares about other people. So on the baseball field, I mean, you want someone that you can trust. You want someone that you feel like is doing the most they can and taking ownership in their game, that likes to be there, that feel like you can trust them, but then also that cares about the guy to the left and the right of them. Baseball is a weird game. It's a really individual game in certain aspects. But if you put too much focus on yourself, it can turn into pressure. And it just seems like the guys that play the best, that are on the best teams, are guys that take care of their own business and you can really trust them, but they're invested in the success of the group as much or more than they are in themselves. But yeah, guys got to love it and they got to want to be great. That's a big part, because we're all trying to do something special. We're all trying to win championships. So one of the first things you want from a teammate is to know that guy's fully invested and doing everything he can to take care of his responsibilities and improve, so that you can count on him at game time.
One thing that we've talked about with that just reminded me, you saying that, we talked about with a few players that we've talked to, is how do you separate, if you're going bad at the plate but the team's winning, or sometimes you're going really good at the plate and the team's losing. From a coach's perspective, and from a former player as well, how would you handle a player who's really struggling at the plate, to the point where they might get taken out of the lineup, but the team is going really well? How do you handle that on an individual basis of, and the guy might not be sulking or anything, he's just going through it and it's just not a good time for him at the plate. How do you handle that as a coach to try to keep him on board with the team, but also try to get him going?
Well, I think the first thing you look at is the defense and the energy, right? So like defense, we were just talking about, the teams that get more base runners, the teams that give up fewer freebies win almost 75% of the time. So at the end of the day, the most important aspects of baseball, the tenets of baseball are throwing strikes, making routine plays, right? And so the first thing you look when a guy struggles, because, we have weekends, where you're seeing good pitching all weekend long. And, in the pro game, a guy could go 1 for 12 on the weekend and you could sweep the other team. You could win 2 out of 3.
Mm-hmm.
I think that how's he playing defense? Is he still playing defense, especially if he's at a position where defense is a premium? And there are positions on the field where defense is more important than hitting, especially at certain points in the game and the year. So, and then the next thing is, is he acting the same? Is he talking? If he's an infielder, is he talking to the guy to the left and right of him? Is he still being encouraging? We all know as baseball players that guys go through ups and downs at the plate. And so if those things are all good and the work is there, you try to teach guys to work because it's part of their routine and part of their process, not as a response just to struggling. Get up the next day and figure out and get to work. I think, there are times where guys will straighten out. Everything's going good. It's just a rough patch. There's times where guys will benefit from watching a game or two and being able to clear their head. And, I think sometimes it just depends on the player, but I think good coaches can help that player to get better and let them know, hey, obviously you're not in the lineup right now, but we haven't lost faith in you. Sometimes it's just a guy needs a breather. Or maybe there's another guy on the team that has been really doing good work in the practices and the limited opportunities that player's been getting, and they've earned it as well. I think, decisions are a lot of times made about you, but they're not always just made about you.
Right.
And I think the good coaches are good with hanging in there with the players and showing loyalty, but players know that they make the lineup out. Mm-hmm. And I think, if the players feel that they make the lineup out and it's fair, then they're pretty comfortable with knowing that they have the opportunity to earn or lose playing time.
Yeah, well, I think it's funny because defense seems to be, and base running seem to be forgotten a lot of the time when you talk about going through a slump or you talk about going really well. Yeah. It's normally, I'm raking at the plate or I'm not doing anything at the plate. It's never I'm making the plays I need to be making in the field or I'm struggling in the field. Everything seems to always be offense related. So it's, as a player, that's where you almost relieve your stress of going bad at the plate is by doing what you need to do on the defensive side. So, it's nice to hear you talk about that because it's important.
Yeah, if you play defense, you're going to give your team a chance to win. And, if you're not hitting well, you're probably not running the bases a lot. So that's tough too. That can feel like you didn't even play if you didn't reach base or something like that. But, the defense and it's just being clear with guys knowing, what the value, what the program values. But I know most programs or most teams that play at a high level value playing good, solid defense, if not above average defense. And the other thing is this: if you're not going great, you can't start chasing average. You hear it all the time, chasing average. But hey, man, you might have a man on third in the infield back in the third inning, and I know it's still not always easy when it's not going good, but you don't need to hit a home run there. And if the focus is getting on base, moving guys over, getting runs in, and things like that, if RBIs are treated as as really, really important things. I mean, right, the goal is to score runs, so it's RBIs and runs scored. So you can go 0 for 3 with a walk and have an RBI and a run scored. And your batting average went down, but you did a lot to help your team win, especially if it's a low-scoring game.
Yeah.
There's so much we could get into. We haven't even really touched on analytics, and I guess this is more of a personal question that I've always wondered when it comes to analytics, and I guess more of at the major league level, but I want your opinion on it since we have you here. Scheduled days off. Now, at the major league level, it's become more and more prevalent. I would say I think the Yankees are one of the teams that started this a few years back to let's say it's tomorrow. Gary Sanchez was scheduled to have tomorrow off for 2 weeks. He's going through a little slump. Now today, he goes 3 for 4. And tomorrow, he's still off. Are you a guy that is pro ride the wave of a potential getting out of that slump? Or are you more of a guy that says, you know what, we're going to go by the textbook, we're going to go by the analytics that the staff came up with, and Gary Sanchez, no matter how good or how bad he's hitting right now, he's going to have tomorrow off?
Yeah, that's an interesting question with the major leagues. You'd like to you'd love to never really fully paint yourself in a corner, right? Having some feel with those situations, the opportunity to make some decisions. If a guy's going really bad and he's got a day off 3 days from now, it might do him better to have the day off tomorrow rather than wait till he gets going and then give him the day off. And most of these decisions that get made, that's the thing I think that people that maybe haven't been in the dugout don't always realize is these aren't 100% to 0% decisions, like whether to hit and run or not, or whether to bunt or not, or whether to go get your starting pitcher. Nowadays, we're talking about that, to go get the sixth inning guy, or, the whatever. We don't want our starting pitcher to see more than this many hitters that you see. Those decisions are 55-45 decisions. Those are really kind of gray area decisions. And you'd love to have a little bit of room for instinct while using the data, right? You got this data knowing that I've got to give this guy this many days off or every this many weeks. I think that's good information. You'd love to have some flexibility on how you do it, right? Or maybe just give a guy a day off when it's a bad matchup for him rather than the next day when he's hitting 450 against the starting pitcher, that he's seeing. The college game is one of the things I love about it is we play 4 to 5 games a week. The NCAA mandates that 1 day a week we do nothing. Actually, if a player texts us to get extra work, we actually have to say no that 1 day a week. So you've got 1 day a week where guys are away from it. Now, they can go hit on their own if they want, or if they can go do something on their own, but you encourage them to maybe use that day and get back in early the next day and get to work. And then you have another day a week, at least one, maybe two, that are just practice days where you might get a lift in. So we're actually able to really schedule our week at this level where we know we're going to play on Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays, and Tuesdays. And we're going to play an occasional Wednesday and an occasional Thursday. And we can really schedule our weeks out for what you're talking about, Alex, to try to have guys feeling great on the days that they play, because they're not playing 7 days a week.
Most people probably know how I feel about days off. I don't want them ever, and maybe that's because I play first base, so it's not as taxing on the body. But when I was a freshman, I did get a scheduled day off, and I think Nani and I almost boxed in the locker room when he told me that I was DHing that day, and that's what I considered a day off. That's, now I don't mind DHing as much, but then I had never really done it, and I didn't know what to do with myself in the hour between at bats other than going out to play first. So we almost fought that day. So that's how I feel about days off. But it's funny the difference from a player to a coach. And then you talk about analytics when it comes to days off, how all that comes into play. But Nani, you're known as a guy who keeps his emotions in check. But there was a time when you got tossed. You were coaching first base, I believe, at LSU. Why don't you just walk us through what happened then and why you got ejected from a game?
Yeah, I guess those probably aren't proud moments always to talk about, but things can get emotional, and when you give everything you can, your team's giving everything you can. That was probably just a situation where I voiced displeasure more than I should have, just about a call that could have taken might have resulted in us having another run or something like that. So the play-by-play would probably just be as simple as I probably didn't stop voicing displeasure because, I didn't agree with the call. But, those are few and far between times, and I guess you can't ever justify it. But
well, that was your first year after leaving Old Dominion, so it was my sophomore year, and we were watching that game live on the bus. I don't remember where we were going to or coming from, but you had at least 45 Monarchs that were in your corner getting fired up behind you for getting tossed out of a game.
Yeah, you'd have been going to probably the conference tournament that year. I think that was the last weekend of the year. So you were probably bussing down there.
That's probably what it was, yeah. We were all behind you. We were all ready to fight an umpire for you.
That's awesome.
There's this unwritten rule, I guess you could say, that coaches, when a team is struggling or needs to be fired up, that coaches need to step up and to fire up their teams and voice. I mean, Aaron Boone, I think, for example, I know you grew up a Yankee fan, so I'll use the Yankee example here. Savages in the box. You know, the Yankees were going through a tough stretch before that day, and Aaron Boone voices displeasure with an umpire. Do you believe that at some times it is up to the coaches to really show that they do care about the player's success on the field, and when they do feel the energy is kind of low, that it's up to them to get that energy back into the clubhouse and the dugout and on the field?
I do. I think that, you know, coaches are resourceful people and they're trying to find every way they can. You know, the whole job of a coach is to help optimize performance, right? Whether it's team performance or individual performance. And there are times where injecting energy and things like that helps. And players want to play for a person. They don't want to play for a machine. You know, baseball is just the most interesting thing because you always hear about being even keel and being steady and things like that. And baseball is one of those games that takes a while to really figure out how can I be even keel, but also play with emotion. And the game is interesting right now because the emotion is more accepted than it's ever been. And so that's kind of an interesting side note of the evolution of the game. I think with coaching, you know, a lot of times coaches aren't saying a lot because there's just a lot that they're thinking about, especially you think about managers in the big leagues or a head coach or a guy that's running an offense or a pitching coach. I mean, you're trying to think about, all right, if this guy gets on, are we going to bunt? Are we going to hit and run? If you're the head coach, or, you know, how many pitches is our pitcher at? Who's in the pen? Who's coming up next? So a lot of times as a young player, you don't understand why coaches aren't rah-rah all the time. And then you coach and you realize, well, they're just not rah-rah because the coach's job is to put the players in the best position to have success. And the player's job is to play with energy and compete. But you're right. You know, there's times that all good coaches know when to inject that energy. And, you know, I know that's something that as a coach, I'm always trying to find is, you know, when is this a time to be patient? And when is this a time to maybe not be patient? And it's usually not 100-0. It's you're just trying to use your instincts and pick ways. And everything that we do is the intention is to help, right? I think it gets lost when that's not the intention anymore. But I think players like a head coach or a coach to show emotion every once in a while.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
But they don't want a guy that's so emotional that's up and down all the time, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
You want
probably a combination. That's why it's such an interesting balance. Is you want to see that sign of life as a player, or even as an assistant coach. You like when your head coach shows that, and then you know I think players also, you know, every time they get out, they don't want to come back to the dugout. You know, it's just that fine line. How do you have patience but show emotion and inject emotion at the right times?
Right.
And that takes a lot of skill, and the best managers and coaches really know that's a feel thing, and they know how to navigate that, I think.
Yeah, well, we've all had those coaches where when you strike out, you look to see their reaction to basically see how you feel about the strikeout.
Yeah.
And you just kind of want a guy that's a flat line in those moments. But then you're right, like to basically have the players back and, you know, fight.
It's almost like you're asking a coach to have a play, you know, it's like two parallel personalities, right? Like, right. I really want you to be loving and supportive and behind me and to help me all the time. But I want you to be able to step out and, you know, pull me back in and, you know, jerk me, you know, figuratively when I need it. Mm-hmm. And as a player, you're also like, or as a coach, you want a player that just comes to work every day, has consistency with his effort, does all those things, is consistent that way. But as a coach, we also want to see a guy at times say like, all right, that's enough, right? Like and show some emotion. Like, I just got out for the 15th time in a row. I don't need to cuss at the top of my lungs. I don't need to go throwing things, but I've got to show that, man, this isn't okay as well. So it's almost like you're asking for to be present. And I think that's what makes the great ones is they know how to have that steady personality, but they know the human part can come out when it needs to.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, Alex and I have a segment where we each ask 5 almost rapid fire questions, but you don't have to answer them super quick. You can take your time, deliberate, and think about your answer if you need to. So Alex will start us off. I have to keep count of Alex's questions because he always loses count of where he's at. So he'll start, then I'll go, then he'll go, and we'll go 10 questions.
I guess I'm just not an analytics guy. I need my scorebook, I guess, or something. So first one, what has been one of your quarantine binge watches this year?
That's a great one. Homeland. My wife and I watched that after the girls went to bed. It was like an episode a night. That was a big one. Ozark. Waiting on another season of that coming. So this has been, I guess, a time where we can catch up on a little bit of that, huh?
Yeah. So you are a father of 2 girls, and you're the only guy in your family. So what is the best thing about being a girl dad?
I would say that's a good question. It's definitely when you come home after being at work, it's not the same old. Right. There's a lot of dancing that goes on in our kitchen and things like that. And you could be nice more often than a lot of times dads are harder on their sons. Yeah. You can probably be a little bit more loving and nice all the time as a girl's dad.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, if you could go back and play any position at the professional level, what position would you choose?
I would have loved to be a shortstop. I know a lot of people say catching or pitching, but I threw left-handed, and I just think shortstops, they're involved in everything. And I know as a coach how important it is. I'm always talking to our shortstop. I would love to have been in the middle of everything.
So that goes into my question, which is, what is the most important position in baseball?
Tomorrow's starting pitcher.
You're so wrong. The answer is first base. I'm going to continuously try to build the first base brand over this show because we're just like linemen. We're offensive linemen. There's no love except from anybody on the team. The shortstops know when they make a bad throw and we pick them. They pick us up. No one else cares. So I'm going to continuously do that. So that's the wrong answer.
No, you're right. You're right. First base is more important than you're letting on that people think it is. It's pretty important. It's just not as important as the guy that's throwing 120 pitches that day.
What would be your biggest pet peeve?
In what?
In life.
Whew. Man, I try not to get frustrated too much. I don't like some little things, like when people don't turn their blinkers on when you're driving behind them just because they don't think they have to, or things like that. But there aren't too many things that bother me too much. I try to not focus on them.
I'll tell you what bothers him. I'll give you the answer.
What?
It's when players on his teams that he coaches has girlfriends, and the girlfriends matter more than the baseball. That right there is the answer.
I would say that would be frustrating. Yeah. The whole goal when you put together a baseball team, you want kids to have a great experience, but man, we want them to be awesome on the field.
That's right. Are you a pants up or a pants down guy? Back in your playing days and now in your coaching days?
Like 70, 30, probably 80-20 pants down. Sometimes up as a player, depending on, the uni. A lot of times, as you know, there's certain summer ball teams or minor league teams where, it doesn't get halfway down your calf. So you got to pull that one up. But 80-20 pants down.
Do you prefer drinking water or any sort of drink out of plastic or glass cups better?
Oh, that's a great question.
And the reason I'm asking this, I've asked this before. I was going to change up my questions for every show. I've been given positive feedback about this question, and it's become pretty contentious. So think about your answer before you answer.
At the house, glass. Guys will joke with me. There's sometimes I'll have a glass in my helmet rack that I brought from home, and I had it during the day. I think that like the Corksicles or the Yetis, I think those are great because you can go from water to coffee like really easily. That would probably be my favorite thing. It's just more expensive if you lose it than a plastic cup is.
Yeah.
So I would say number one would be the Corksicle or the Yeti. Number two would be glass. Number three would be plastic. But if you're on the road and you travel a lot, sometimes it's just easier to have the plastic.
Yeah.
And then I think this is number 5 for me, right, Vinny?
That's correct. Good man.
All right, look at me go. Number 5, if you could have any baseball broadcaster to call one of your past games, who would you have chosen?
Wow. That's a great question. I would probably say, just growing up a Yankee fan, Phil Rizzuto. Just
you a John Sterling guy?
Yeah, I like John Sterling. I mean, but that's the thing. Like, I don't listen to the announcers in Chicago or in, there's not a lot of, right? You listen to your local market especially on AM radio or on just the radio broadcast. But that was just growing up, we were listening to them during, when we were in the car. So I would say there. And then it's just where everybody knows Vin Scully.
Yeah.
But I think hearing Scooter say like, holy cow, and all those things, that would be awesome.
All right. I have a follow-up. So you grew up, you like John Sterling. Let's say you played for the Yankees and you hit a home run. What do you think John Sterling's home run call is going to be for you?
That's a great question. I don't know. I didn't hit enough home runs that I had to really.
He got hit no homers. He has no power. He's a situation,
but he has some awesome ones. And man, I don't know what it would be called. Do you have any idea?
The call for his home run would be, "Oh my God, it actually happened! A home run! He hit a home run! This is history, folks." That would be the call. That
would can fly ball to center field right now.
Yeah, well,
carrying the wind got it.
This doesn't count as one of my questions, but how's your swing? I know you're always in the cage. What are you still hitting line drive?
Not feeling as much right now. It's slowed down. I got to make sure to play when the ball's moving slowly. I still like doing the bunting competitions. I feel like as you get older, to kind of go back to the beginning, you try to play skill games as opposed to talent games.
Yeah.
Your God-given ability decreases as you get a little older, but your skill can hold on. So, any bunting game or bat control game would be I would not want to play an exit velocity game with these guys.
So my last question, this is an important one. When are you finally going to give up and just go bald?
I like the no guard. Right now it's been like 2 weeks. So I'm going to shave the head again probably. You can't helps out. So it's 51 out here today and tomorrow, but I'll probably shave it back, no guard. I don't know, for whatever reason. It's not a vanity thing. It's just I like how that feels better probably than when you don't have hair. You're not making decisions really based on vanity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was our 10 questions. So congratulations on passing through. You did a great job of answering those 10 questions. Alex, do you have any more questions for him?
I don't, but I'll ask the one that Vinny always seems to forget to ask.
I'm going to get there.
You always say that, Vin. So where can everyone follow you on social media and get to know you?
Blow yourself up. Give it to the people. Tell them where they can find
my name on Twitter at Karl Nonemaker. And so that's where, we, obviously as college coaches and recruiters, we put some stuff out there, for the schools we're at and things like that. So pretty active there. Instagram's more of, a lot of kids are using Instagram, and it's more of a family thing these days. I don't put as much baseball stuff out there, but I don't know what I am on Instagram, Karl K Nonemaker or something like that. But on Twitter, we try to stay pretty active and put some stuff out there for our recruits.
Yeah. Well, thank you for giving us your time today, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Enjoyed it, guys. You guys have a great day.
Yeah,
Thank you.
This is our transition music for today. I'm still working on Alex to try to find some transition music, so then we move from segment to segment in piece. So when you hear that pen tap in my computer or mechanical pencil, that means our interview is over, and we're back. We're back to my closet in Norfolk, Virginia. Or no, sorry, I'm in Richmond, Virginia. How could I even forget where I am? I don't know what day it is. All the days are just coming together.
It is Friday,
Alex, but
it is Friday.
No, it's Thursday. I know that it's Thursday today because I thought it was Wednesday earlier, and then I had to correct myself and figure out it's Thursday. So I do know that. When we're recording, it's Thursday. When it's coming out, it's Friday. So that talk about getting confusing when filming a show is when you're filming for the next day, but you're still currently in the day before. So it's tough to do. But anyways, talk about a great interview, Alex. I mean, that was just unreal.
The fact about this interview, and we have to get Karl back on because we barely got into the statistics side of the game. And one of my favorite parts was when we talked about scheduled off days. It's such an interesting topic, and I know you've dealt with that before in your career. And it's just interesting to hear it from a coach's side of things, and how the benefits of scheduled days off happen. And also just how the college season is built, so well in that way that there's scheduled days off in there. I wonder if we ever get to that point at, professional level, maybe that is something that teams will try to take on. We don't play 7 days a week at the major league level. Who knows what happens with that? But I think it is just such an interesting point and an interesting, I think a good idea that potentially might eventually happen.
Hold on. I got to ask you a question. Did you misspeak? Did you mean to say you don't play 7 days a week at the college level? Because you said the major league level, and I'm pretty sure that they do go 7 days a week at a time.
They do 7 days a week, but they don't do it at the college level. So
okay. Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure because I can't let that slide if that's what you meant. Because I remember last year, even, in the minor leagues, we went 22 days straight one time.
Right.
And then there's 7 in there somewhere.
Right. And that was my point. Right. So thanks for if I misspoke, coffee hasn't really hit in there yet. What I meant was, how Karl said that the college season works out so well is because they can't go 7 days a week because of the NCAA.
Right.
But at the major league level, at the professional level, like what you're at, Vinnie, you could play 30 games in a row. If there's so many rainouts, if we're in another situation like we were in this past year where you have to play double headers, 2 or 3 double headers a week, and you make them 7 innings long, just to get the amount of games in. But at some point, it becomes tiring. It's not good product. At the end of the day, it's impossible to put out, the good content that baseball is, that sports is 30 straight days with no days off. You're going to be tired, hurt. So there are some benefits to scheduled days off or just a day off in general. So it should be interesting to see if that ever gets brought on at that professional level.
Well, I think it's interesting because I never want a day off. And I said this in the podcast, never. And I understand that from a business side, it kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. But from a personal side, it doesn't make sense. The way that most players, 95% of the players at minimum, I would bet that we would ask, mm-hmm. would say that they play better when they're playing every day because now you get into a rhythm and a day off can throw your rhythm off. So most guys, when they want their days off, it's because they're not going well and and it's not even that they want to stop. It's just, it makes sense. Hey, we're going to mess your rhythm up because you're not going very well right now. We're going to give you an off day, kind of shock your body a little bit and then get you back going the next day. And so it's kind of interesting because from a player side, I don't want a day off ever. I want to keep going. I want to keep playing. And everybody understands that those days off happen, but it's not something that you're really ever going to go ask for or anything because it's not, you want to be out there. That's why you play the game, is to play. So it is an interesting topic when you talk to a coach, because I'm sure if we talk to a player, we'd have different opinions.
Yeah, no. And again, it was interesting hearing it from that side because I'm on the side of you, right? I don't want a day off if I'm playing and if I'm broadcasting, right? I feel great, I need to get into the rhythm, but maybe you might feel a little bit more, after the day off, like, wow, I really was tired, right? And now you're out of that rhythm. So I think you look at it both ways, but again, interesting to hear it from Karl's view of that side of baseball. So
yeah, but it was an interesting interview. We're going to be back on Monday, where we have the return of Boog Shambi coming on Monday. So that was an interesting interview. We're excited to drop that one then. I'm sure we'll have a clip or two to be posted before it and on the day that we drop it. But from my end, I don't have any more to say. So I'll see everybody on Monday.
Everyone have a great weekend. Thanks for listening and watching the podcast this week. If you're not a subscriber, be a subscriber. Leave us that 5-star review and let us know what you think. And now that we have 8 shows out there with interviews with people that you all care about, let us know what you think, and to hopefully get to the point where we get, just better and better every single day. So
bye. Alex does not like closing out shows, so I'll just say bye for him. He keeps looking at me like I have something else to say, even though I just said I have no more to say. So on that note, see ya.
See you, everyone. Have a great weekend.